Hi everybody, Jane here, and I am doing my December wrap-up. Now I did do a mid-month wrap-up, and I'm not going to talk about any of those books here. I think in the future I'll be doing stats and stuff in my wrap-ups. Just wasn't organized this year, just kind of getting back on the horse with this. However, I will link my mid-month wrap-up below in case you wanted to see the other books I read in December. December has been an amazing reading month, in quantity as well as quality overall. So I've really had a good time, and I hope you do too.
Pictures and patterns put into words that stream across the page, capturing life as soul spoken.
So let's start with least favorite to most favorite. And that is unfortunately going to start with the DNFs. And the first one we have is the holiday triplets. In this book, we have a pediatrician who adopts 3 babies and the obstetrician who loves her. I had 3 main complaints about this book that I got to around the halfway point and I just was done. So my first issue is the way that healthcare works in this book is not how I've ever seen healthcare work. And as a healthcare worker, a lot of things just drove me crazy. We have the obstetrician who is still delivering babies and doing administrative duties. And like, when does he have time? There's a lot of that. There's also like a place where the obstetrician, the pediatrician, the neonatologist, and one of the nurses are kind of together doing something over the weekend. And I'm like, that is your whole maternity ward. What are you doing? So I didn't feel, I couldn't suspend my disbelief on that part. But that would not have been enough for me to DNF, okay? Because I was like, okay, this is crazy, but still going through. I didn't like the way that they treated the mother who was giving up her babies for adoption. She's a 19-year-old teenage girl whose partner leaves her, and she comes back to the hospital after being a couple weeks out from her C-section and being like, my partner is left. I cannot take care of these babies by myself. And they at one point like call her a drama queen. She's portrayed so badly and so irresponsibly. And I think that's to make the reader sympathetic and be like, oh, the pediatrician had to adopt these babies. No other option was appropriate. And I get that, but it gave me the ick how the mother was portrayed. Instead of being like a woman in a tough situation, she's just a terrible person. And yeah, I had issues with that. But even that wasn't enough for me to DNF the book. I love the trope of, we're going to take care of babies together and fall in love. And that's kind of what this book seems like it's promising. But that's really not how the trope goes. At the point that I DNF'd this book, the pediatrician has been their mom for, I don't know, a few weeks. She's tired. She's got a night nurse. And like, I have multiples. I didn't have a night nurse. She has a night nurse, but somehow and granted, she does not take maternity leave, so that's probably how, but she's just so exhausted, so tired. Her kids are in daycare during the day, which I don't know if you could even do that with as young as they are, but that's again, suspending disbelief here. But she's so exhausted. And the obstetrician comes to her house. And what does he do? Does he say, I'm going to get this. I'm going to change all the diapers, do all the bottle feeds, you just rest? No. He calls in the neonatologist and is like, hey, can you and the nursey watch the babies for this weekend? Because this is another pet peeve. So the neonatologist and the nurse were dating. They broke up because she didn't want to have kids and he does. And the obstetrician's all like, here, we'll have the neonatologist and the nurse watch the babies. So the neonatologist decides he doesn't want kids. Like, that is firstly so dumb. Because, he's a neonatologist. It's not like he's never been around kids. Also, like, this kind of book the baby hate is just not working for me. Like, I want the people to love the babies. That's why we pick up these books with the babies. So he's like, oh yeah, they're gonna watch the babies while I whisk mom away on a weekend in a cabin. And I'm like, that is not how we do this co-parenting trope. This lady has just adopted babies. These babies have been taken from their real mother, who they were with for like a week and 2 weeks, whatever. They have just been displaced from her. They're trying to adapt to this new mom. They're in daycare. They have a night nurse. They're dealing with trauma and trying to have a healthy attachment. And what's happening is the obstetrician is whisking away their now mother for a weekend in a cabin. At that point, I stopped. I could not do anymore. This book made me so mad. So mad. I was so mad at it. And I DNF'd it. So mad. The next DNF I'm not as mad about, and that is Her Wolf for the Holidays. In this one, we have a lady who has moved in beside a wolf pack. She is also a wolf, and the wolves next door had a beef with her, like the person who used to own her house. And so she's like, okay, we're not going to continue the beef. You all seem nice. And they're just trying to like get along. It's really cute. The characters were wonderful. My issue was the writing itself was not working for me at all. And I can't even tell you exactly what it was, but I kept being like, oh, maybe I'll just push through and it'll be okay. I got to about 100 pages and I was like, you know what? I just can't do this anymore. I think if you try the writing and the writing is okay for you, the rest of the book will be wonderful. Because I was into the characters, I was into the story, I just could not get past the writing. And I can be kind of picky about writing. I admit that. But usually I can verbalize to you what isn't working. And this, I just know it was not hitting for me. The words itself, the actual prose, I didn't like the prose. And so this ended up being a miss, but I'm not mad about it because I think other people could really like it if the prose works for you. It just didn't work for me. My next DNF was a buddy read on that I was doing on my Kindle called Holiday Terminal. This is about a woman who is in a snowstorm, and her plane has had to land at this little dinky airport, and with her son and her mother, they cannot get to where they're trying to go. Also stranded at this airport is her ex, who is her baby's daddy, and he quickly sees them and realizes this is his kid. And there's all these family issues and family dynamics, and it was fine. I just didn't care. I think I was at about the halfway mark, and I was initially buddy reading it. And then my buddy ended up finishing it like really, really quickly. And I was like, I don't think I want to. Like, I don't think I care. Like, we had been buddy reading. And had we continued to buddy read, I would have continued to push on because it wasn't a bad book. I just didn't care that much. And when my buddy's like, all done, I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to finish. So, Holiday Terminal, it's fine. I found it kind of boring. I don't have any major complaints about it. If you like little cute, sweet, Hallmark type books, it'll probably work for you. I was bored. All right. On to the books that I actually did finish. The first ones are manga. This is volume 1 and volume 2 of My New Life as a Cat. I gave both of these 3 stars. It is about a teenage boy who is in a car accident and swaps bodies with a cat. And so he is now living as a cat and adopted by this girl who he went to school with. They were fine. They were cute. They were funny. They were pretty repetitive. You can see that this used to be like a webtoon or something. So each section, it like retells you the entire beginning and premise. And I got really bored with that really fast. Like, I don't need to know every time I turn the page that you are a boy in a coma somewhere, or, you know, whose cat switched bodies with a cat. And I just don't need to know that every single time. And so it got really repetitive. I think if you like the premise, check it out. You, at least the first volume, maybe by the first volume you'll be done. If not, the second volume continues in much the same way. Like I said, they were cute, they were fun. I gave them a 3-star. They were just really repetitive, and I don't think I'm going to be continuing with those. The next book, which is also a 3-star for me, was Pet. This is about this is middle grade, and it is about a girl who she accidentally brings to life something in a picture. She lives in like a utopian-esque society where all the monsters are gone. And the thing that comes through the picture says, no, you have a monster among you, and you need to help me find this monster. This book had a lot of diversity, which was great. It had, because the girl, Jam, I think is her name, she is a trans girl. She's also Black. And you do have just a lot of fun diversity in this world, or in this book. So I was all for that. I believe her parents are of Jamaican heritage, but don't quote me. Anyway, I appreciated all that. I also realize this is a middle grade, so my criticisms are going to be, it was kind of underdeveloped. I didn't really get a lot of it. That's probably appropriate for a middle grade. I did think the messaging was good. I think this would be a book maybe that younger people would enjoy. I do sometimes enjoy middle grade. I've even given middle grade like 4 and 5 stars. But for me, this was a little bit too simple, and it wasn't really doing anything for me. And it really was to like hammer on the head of the point that it was trying to make, which is basically, if you get complacent, evil can happen. So I didn't think this was bad. I wouldn't turn anybody away from it. It had a slow start. I didn't really understand the world. It was kind of just underdeveloped for my taste. All right, so now we are getting into my 4-star reads. The first book I gave 4 stars to was Bride Story Volume 2. This is about a woman in I think it's a Bedouin. It's a historic Mongol tribe. And she is an older girl married to a younger boy. They are not like intimate in their marriage, so the ick factor isn't super ick. There's this book, we start to get a little more ick factor, and I will say, like, if the ick factor continues, I'm not sure I'm going to continue reading. Manga, for my understanding, is a little more open to underage stuff than I'm open to. But up until this point, and you know, not in this book, nothing happened between the husband and wife, but her family has come because they need a woman to make a trade with in another clan, and since she has not had a child yet with her husband, they're like, it's not a real marriage, it's not considered a real marriage, so you are going to come with us and we're going to marry you off to these guys who are terrible and murder their wives. I didn't like this as much as Volume 1. Volume 1 I thought was a lot better. This one I still enjoyed enough to give it a 4-star, but I'm going to try one more volume and see if I still like it. Afterwards, we may just call it, you know, done. I love all the historical context, the historical setting, the stuff we're learning. I think that stuff's good. I'm just not sure the story is still working for me. All right, the next thing that I gave 4 stars to was Blood on the Tracks Volume 2 and 3. This is a creepy story. We're on volumes 2 and 3, so what I'll tell you is, in book 1, we have the little boy who has been kind of sheltered his whole life. He goes on a family trip, a tragedy happens, that there's a little bit more nuance to, and we're finding out what's going on. These are creepy. They're horror-esque. I think they're meant to be creepy and weird. I like it. I'm definitely going to keep going at least a little while because I'm intrigued by like what the heck is happening. But it's very disturbing. So just know that going in, it's kind of just, it's pretty disturbing. All right, so my next 4-star was nope, not that one. I mixed the covers up. Hot British Boyfriend. Okay. This is about Ellie. She goes abroad with parts of her class to a school after an embarrassment in her hometown. She is kind of trying to remake herself to be cooler than she is and meets this guy named Will, who is a hot British boy. And she convinces Dev, who is a guy from her class, to help her learn about the stuff Will's into so that she can impress him. She lies about her age. He's a little bit older, and it's an interesting story. I'm going to read the back to you because I think it's necessary. After a horrifying public rejection by her crush, Ellie Nichols does what any girl would do. She flees the country. To be more precise, she joins her high school study abroad trip to England. While most of her classmates are there to take honors courses and pad their college applications, Ellie's on a quest to rebuild her reputation and self-confidence. And nothing is more of a confidence booster than getting a hot British boyfriend. When Ellie meets Will, a gorgeous and charming Brit, she vows to avoid making the same mistake she did with the last guy she liked, which is why she strikes up a bargain with Dev, an overachieving classmate who she's never clicked with, but who does seem to know a lot about the things Will is interested in. If he helps her win over her crush, then she'll help him win over his. But even as Ellie embarks on a whirlwind romance, she still needs to figure out if this is actually the answer to all her problems and whether the perfect boyfriend is actually the perfect boy for her. So that's the information we have going in. And I do think that tells you that this is less of a romance and more of a woman's fiction. But the cover and stuff looks very romancy, and the sequel is very romancy. And these are teen, so I don't know what the rules are for teen romance these days. I liked this book, but I didn't love it for a lot of reasons that are kind of implied on the back cover. Will and her are a poor match from the get-go. We know that. We know there's stuff going on as far as he's not a bad guy. He's just a bad guy for her. And there's just red flags all over this relationship. But yet we spend a lot of time with them, and he is really sweet and really charming, and we can totally see why Ellie likes him. We also can see absolutely why she shouldn't be with him. But this is very much her story, her coming of age. And, you know, it wasn't necessarily what I was expecting. I figured out about halfway where we were going with things. And I did really enjoy this as a whole. I just felt like it kind of wanted to be a romance, but wasn't a romance, and instead was like an Ellie finding herself and finding what she wanted in a boyfriend versus what she was getting and who she was and being her authentic self. I loved the side characters. I had a really good time overall with many elements of this book. But I just think you really need to know going into it what it was, and I maybe didn't read the back very clearly and wasn't aware of what it was before we got into it. Also, as a side note, if you are a parent giving this book to a child, please know that there is quite a bit of alcohol use. I'm an adult reading the book, and that's fine by me, but the people using the alcohol are under 21. Now in Britain, that's not an illegal bit, although I believe Ellie is 17, and in Britain that is still not acceptable. So just know, if you're buying this book for a teenager and you have an issue with alcohol use, this might not be the right book. It was a very good time. I liked her I liked the side characters, her friends. I liked her coming into her own. This was a really good book about Ellie. The romance stuff, I wish things had happened differently than they do as far as focus, not necessarily content. So I think she was with Will way too long in this book. And I was like trying not to be invested in their relationship because I knew that like they're a red flag, but he's also kind of sweet and kind of cute, and I felt bad when things didn't work out. And I wish that what happens afterwards would have taken up more of the book. I'm like trying to not give you spoilers. This was fun. It wasn't a bad book. If you like teen romance books, it might really work for you. It worked for me, but it's not what I would consider a romance, like a proper romance. So just know that going on. All right, so now we're on to the 5-star books. The first one I have for you is the sequel to my Hot British Boyfriend, and that is Hot Dutch Daydream. I liked Hot British Boyfriend. I really liked, like maybe loved, Hot Dutch Daydream. So in this, we have Sage, who Ellie met and roomed with. That was her roommate in Hot British Boyfriend. And Sage is a very focused, overachieving person. She has finished high school. She's going to be starting college next year. And while she was in England, she was doing an internship for a doctor there, Dr. Reese. And Dr. Reese has been like, hey, I'm going to a conference that I would like to bring you to as like an intern, but I can't really justify the plane ticket unless you come and nanny my kid and help at the institute during the summer. And Sage really, really, really wants to work in the medical field. This is she's wants to major in oncology. She wants to be an oncology doctor or researcher for very personal reasons. And so she's like, yeah, that's fine. How hard can taking care of a little kid be? Very hard, it turns out. But anyway, she shows up. She starts the nannying. The nannying is tricky. And she meets Dr. Reese's older son, Ryland. Ryland, I like Ryland. He is an artist. He likes to draw cats. He wasn't supposed to be here this summer, but he had gone on like a backpacking trip and had to come home early because like it was with a girl he liked, and she ended up leaving with somebody else. So he comes home, and him and Sage form like a friendship as he helps with his little brother, and they both kind of encourage each other. He encourages her to try to have fun and relax and not be like, so I must overwork myself to the point that I'm crazy. And like she helps him kind of find focus. They very balance each other out. This was beautiful. This is a typical romance. It worked for me. I loved it. This is what I wanted from the first one. I will say, the first one I listened to partly on audio. This one, or mostly on audio actually, for the first one, for the Hot British Boyfriend. I'm pointing to it like you can see it. Hot British Boyfriend, I mostly listened to on audio. This one I started on audio, but I wasn't jiving with the narrator. So I ended up doing almost entirely in paper form. And I really did enjoy this so very much. Like I said, 5 stars. The romance was cute. The characters were cute. Sage was my favorite in Hot British Boyfriend, so I wasn't sad about that. But yeah, the sequel is, in my opinion, a lot better than book 1. Book 1 is not bad, but I just really liked book 2 significantly better. All right. I actually had a total of 3 5-star reads. That was the first one. The second 5-star read I had was The Writing Retreat. This is a horror. I would say it's a horror. Other people might label it as mystery suspense. I think horror is what I would say I don't read a lot in this genre, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of a Riley Sager. Okay. So if that tells you where I'm coming from and what kind of book it is. Now, I haven't read a ton of Riley Sager either, but the Riley Sagers I've read is the closest comparison I can make. So you have, I don't remember what her name is. You have this girl who's a writer, and she gets the opportunity to go to this writing retreat with this author that she absolutely idolizes. She's there with 4 other writers, one of who is her like ex-best friend and now is an enemy. And they're all being told that what they're going to do during this retreat is they are going to write a novel with feedback from each other and the writing idol lady and compete for a publishing deal. So one person will walk out with like $1 million publishing deal, and they're going to write all these books. Things then go absolutely off the wall, off the rails. I really enjoyed it. My biggest criticism is there's quite a few characters, and we have the main character's story that she's writing kind of being told intermittently with the main action. And so not only do you have all the characters in the retreat, plus, so you have like the 5 girls, plus the lady who's running it, plus 2 staff members for her, plus you have all these characters in the book. So it was a little bit tricky at times to kind of keep track of who everybody was. But overall, I had a good time. This book is very off the rails, so like know that going in. But like I said, like in a Riley Sager-esque kind of way, in my opinion. But I really enjoyed it. I was getting vibes of Misery. I was getting vibes of Saw. I was getting vibes of Scream. Like all of those things in this book. So really enjoyed it. I gave it a 5-star. I can definitely see where this may not be other people's cup of tea, and maybe especially as a writer, I had extra feelings for it, but I had such a good time with it. And the last book I gave 5 stars to was Barbarian Alien. This is the second book in the Ice Planet Barbarians series. I gave book 1 4 stars and had some issues with it. 5 stars for the second. I freaking loved it. And I want to just spoil this. I read right after it, but in January, so it'll be my January wrap up, the 3rd book. And like, I really liked book 2. I gave it a 5-star. Book 3 was for me like God tier, like mind blown. So like understand, as I'm going to tell you about this one, that I liked it, but then I read the 3rd book and my mind was blown. So like that can affect this review a little bit. All right. So in this we have, I don't remember what the guy's name is. The girl's name is Liz. And we actually start the story where she's still on the spaceship. For those who don't know. Okay. So Ice Planet Barbarians, a space, bad aliens kidnapped girls. Girls fought aliens. Things happened and they got like, they were in the storage compartment. The bad aliens like dumped their storage compartment down on the planet they call Not Hoth. It's an ice planet. And in book 1, we have Georgie, one of the girls who's gone out to try to find help and resources and things. She comes back with these aliens, and in this society, these aliens, they are having a female shortage, and they are finding that these females, they have a fated mate system, and they are like getting these fated mate things with these girls. So Liz has just dealt with like a week of being cold and without food and without resources on this ice planet. She is not feeling any of this romance, and the alien, there's an alien doting on her, and he can understand her, but she doesn't know that. And so like she just sees him as this gruff, angry, kind of scary dude. And she at the beginning kind of gives us all the info that we need if we're a first-time reader. So I think actually book 2 is a great entrance point. Book 1 had some issues for me. I'm not sad I read it, but like if you are sensitive to SA, there is a really yucky SA scene in the first book, not between the romantic couple, but there's a really ick scene that I was bothered by, kind of triggered by, and I'm not generally somebody who gets super triggered by stuff, but that was triggering for me. So if that is going to trigger you, maybe don't bother with the first book. You can still know what's going on adequately in book 2. I have a friend who I thought would be very triggered by the essay in book 1, but I thought would be okay in book 2 because everything, there's none of that in here. So anyway, Liz's Barbarian, I can't remember his name. It starts with an R. I listened to these on audiobook, which may affect my reading. I will tell you though, I loved book 3 so much, I ordered all 3 of the first books because I was just like, okay, after reading book 3, I want this book on my shelf, and so I might as well have book 1, 2, and 3. But anyway, so I decided the point again, trying to focus on book 2. Focus. So Liz, this guy, he is doting on her. We know as the reader that this is the one that he is his fated mate. And so he's frustrated because like his boss, who is the alien that was the love interest in the first book, is all like, listen, these girls are scared. They don't know what's going on. They can't consent to anything. So you all need to just, we have to follow the rules, and everything that happens to these girls. Like if they don't want to go, you cannot take them. If they don't want the medical thing that they need to have to survive on this planet, you have to let them die. And her alien is like, yeah, no, because they're out there and the planet isn't safe for humans. They have to have a thing. They have to have like a parasite given to them so that they can survive. They will die otherwise. And Liz is all like, I ain't getting no parasite. Nope, not doing this. And he's all like, sorry, you are. He has now screwed things up and upset his tribal leader, but he saved his fated mate. But also there was like a non-consensual medical procedure. Like, I don't know how you feel about it. That didn't bother me particularly, but I know some people it will. So if that's going to be a trigger for you, book 1's going to have triggers, this book's going to have triggers, maybe just don't do it. But I didn't find this particularly triggering, especially because we know why he did it. He did it for the right reasons. She's upset about it. But anyway, because he has now given her this parasite without her permission, his tribal leader is going to be really upset with him, and so he basically runs away with her and takes her to his cave. And yeah, they fall in love. It was so good. I had such a good time with it. This was the steamiest of the 3 books that I've read so far. This is a very high steam book. I love the characters. I had such a good time. There's not a ton of story, but there's some story. Them getting used to each other in this situation. She's an interesting character too, because she definitely, his thing is, I'm trying to keep you alive and you are my fated mate and nobody else likes me because I am, I may not have mentioned this. He has wounds. He has scars. He's a scarred hero. And so the girls back home don't like him. They're not interested in him. And so he didn't think he was ever going to get a fated mate. And so like so the stakes are extra high. It's not like he can even go home and just have some, fun off to the side stuff with people like other people in the clan do. Nobody wants him because he is battle scarred. And this is his fated mate. Like literally this is his entire life. And it's so much grumpy but caregiving. He's all like, she's the most annoying human in the whole wide world. but I'm gonna take care of you and I'm gonna love you because gosh darn it, you're my mate and this is what we do. And I freaking loved that. I loved it. The more annoying she was, he's all just very huffy, like, well, I guess I have to keep you from dying because you are my entire world. But could you please stop being so annoying? Like, that was the vibe. I loved it. And she's just, I really liked her as well. Her thing throughout the whole book, and we get this very clearly, is I have had a ton of stuff happen to me that I did not consent to, and I just want some ability to make choices in my own life. I was abducted by aliens. I've landed on this ice planet. I have a fated mate that I didn't get to choose. All of this stuff is happening to me outside of my control. I really hate it, and I want to find a way to be happy in my life. So it was really good. I really liked her story. I really liked his story. I was just happy. This was such a good book. So I really like the Ice Planet Barbarians so far. Book 3, like I said, God tier for me. This book was really good. 5-star. So yeah, so this has been the end of my reading month, and I'm really glad that I had so many 5 stars because early in the month, everything just felt like a miss. I had 1 5-star, I think, in my mid-month wrap-up, and a lot of 3s. And this month I had some bads, but then I had a lot of good too. So I was very excited. All right, guys, tell me about the best thing that you read this year. Or at least in December. How about that? Best thing you read in December. All right, guys. Oh, and if you have comments about any of the books I've read below, let me know. If you've read Ice Planet Barbarians, which book is your favorite? Because I'm about to move on to 4, but I'm so scared that, like, nothing is going to top book 3. You know how, like, you read a series and you're like, oh, this is the best book. And I'm really worried, like, nothing is going to top book 3 for me. So I'm, like, worried it's going to all be downhill from here. So I've, like, been hesitant to read more. So let me know in the comments if you read Ice Planet Barbarians, what your favorite book is, and then what you read in December, whatever your favorite was for December. So I have more books that I can check out that are awesome. All right, guys, this has been Jane. Talk to you next time. Bye.